So first, in the last session, we covered the initial part of the Bhagavad-Gita, which covers perhaps the single most important topic. Are you going to worship God in the form of Sri Krishna, or are you going to worship me in the impersonal, absolute, inconceivable, ineffable, all-pervading form, aspect, formlessness? So last time we explained clearly what Krishna wants, and Krishna wants you to worship him in the form by which you become most intimately united with him. Today we are going to try to cover the second section of the Bhagavad Gita. And the second section of the Bhagavad Gita, I call it the ladder of devotion, where Krishna speaks of the ideal state of his devotee who is worshipping him in the original form of Sri Krishna. And then he steps down further and further and further, so that he gives you allowance to approach him in different ways. So depending upon your psychological makeup, your proclivities, your uh, attachments to various things in the world that prevent you from being completely absorbed in him, Krishna then goes on to give you different methods. Now, it's called the ladder of devotion because it starts with the ultimate and then steps its way down. But on the other hand, it's also known as the garland of devotion. Many people call it the garland of devotion because each of these is not exclusive of the other. So when you can observe one of them, that's wonderful. If you can't, you can observe another one. And if you are fully accomplished in one path, you can move on to the next one. So it's like a garland of devotion, a set of methods and paths which Krishna describes in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which extend from, I think, from 7 to 20. So I will now begin the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where he begins on the top of that ladder. It's interesting because, as kids, we used to play this game called Sap CD or Snakes and Ladders. Similarly, on the path of devotion, you have a ladder, and this is the ladder that we're going to discuss. And you can step on the ladder wherever you are, depending upon your stage in life, and then pick up from there. So you might ask, what is a sap? The sap, of course, is kama, krodha, tatha, lobhas. That means this strong, lustful desire, anger, and greed. These are, of course, the sap that brings you down the ladder. So orienting towards God is called yoga. Orienting towards the world is the path of karma. And here we are discussing the ultimate path of bhakti yoga as described in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna says in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparah ananyena eva yogena mam dhyayantu upasate tesham aham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshit chetasam. So there are two verses here, 6 and 7. And in verse number 6, Krishna clearly points out that one who's completely absorbed in me, doing everything for me, naturally, effortlessly. This is the key. The key is effortless devotion, natural and effortless devotion. It's not that you have to force yourself to do it. You are naturally absorbed in God. And when you are naturally absorbed in God and effortlessly absorbed in God, This is termed in chapter 9, we have already covered. You are known as a Mahatma. So chapter 12.6 refers to chapter 9.13, where Krishna says, Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritah bhajantya ananya manaso gnatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Lord, original and inexhaustible. So when Krishna here is speaking of a person who is yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matpara ananyaneva yogena mam dhyayantu upasate. This is the description. He is doing that, in fact, as a Mahatma who is completely absorbed in God. And what is his activities? In 9.14, similarly, you can continue in 12.6 itself. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridvratah namasyantascha mem bhaktya nityukta upasate. So these Mahatmanas who are in the platform of perfection on the top of the ladder of devotion, they are always chanting his glories, endeavoring with great determination, constantly bowing down before him. These great souls perpetually worship Krishna with devotion. And what happens to them? Krishna promises that for them who are effortlessly, constantly absorbed in him, he gives them the benefit of his divine grace. And what divine grace? He gives them that divine grace which assures them that they will be delivered from this ocean of birth and death. Therefore, he says in 12.7, Tesham aham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshit chetasam. He clearly says, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death, because they're always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me. So they don't remain for long in that position. This is a very key word. Bhavami na chirat. They not a very long time. That means in a very short time. Sorry. In a very short time, Krishna delivers them from the cycle of birth and death. They don't have to make any other effort. They're simply absorbed in him, constantly glorifying him, chanting his name, doing everything for him. For him, deliverance is guaranteed because Krishna picks them up like the cat picks up its kittens and carries them to his abode. Similarly, you can see other descriptions where Krishna says, we have talked about in the Chatushloka of 10th chapter, Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Tesham evanu kampartham aham ajnana jam tamah nashamya atma bhavasto jnana deepena vasvata. For those who are constantly worshipping me, Tesham satatam yuktanam, and their bhajatam priti purvakam, he gives them the intelligence by which to come to him. This is his grace. When you're absorbed in him, you're delivered by his grace. And he personally delivers you from this material universe. He personally delivers you. Therefore, he says, Tesham evanu kampartham aham ajnana jam tamah nashyamyatma bhavasto jnana deepena basvata. So this is the top of the ladder of devotion. That if you are absorbed in him, you're constantly worshipping him, you are doing everything for him, then by his grace, you cross over this ocean of birth and death. Like a cat picks up the kittens, it picks up the devotee and delivers him. Seated in his heart with the shining lamp of knowledge, he destroys the darkness that is born out of ignorance. So this is very classic, that on the path of perfection of bhakti, constant absorption in God leads to divine grace. Now, what if you can't do that? What if you cannot naturally take to the path of devotion? What if you can't be constantly absorbed in him at all times? What if you can't be doing everything always for him? Then what should you do? What is the next step on that ladder? And the next step on that ladder, Krishna explains here very clearly. Mai eva mana adhatsva, mai buddhim niveshaya, nivasyasi mai eva ata urdhvam na samshaya. Then he says, if you can't be naturally absorbed in me, just fix your mind upon me. And if you fix your mind and intelligence upon me, you will definitely live in me without any doubt. This is very important. It's a throwback to an Upanishad, which is known as the Amrit Bindu Upanishad. And the Amrit Bindu Upanishad is a very important Upanishad. It's repeatedly quoted, particularly the verse I'm going to give you now. It has 22 mantras, and each mantra is very deep, thought-provoking, and all of them deal with the mind. So the very first verse says, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo, bandhaya vishaya saktam, muktam nirvishayam smritam. He says the mind is the cause of your deliverance, and the mind is the cause of your bondage. So the mind is the cause of your salvation, and the mind is the cause of your bondage. That mind, which is absorbed in the world and the senses, Vishaya Saktam, they are in bondage. Whereas that mind which is free from thoughts of the sense objects and the world, such a mind is the cause of your moksha. So we really have very beautiful verses here where this is discussed by Krishna earlier in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, verse 5, Krishna declares, Udared atmanatmanam na atmanam avasadyet atmaiva atmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmanah. Elevate yourself through the power of your mind. Do not degrade yourself. For your mind can be your friend, and the mind can also be your enemy. The key is to fix your mind on God. But if you fix your mind on the world, then the thoughts of the world will lead to your degradation. So in verse 6.6, Krishna says, Bandhur atmanas tasya yenatmaeva atmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartet atmaiva tu shatruvat. For those who have conquered the mind is their friend. For those who have an uncontrolled mind, the mind works like an enemy. This is the importance that the mind is given. But if you conquer the mind, Jitatmana prashantasya paramatmaha samahitah shito shana sukha dukeshu Tatha man apmanayo. For one who has conquered the mind, for him God is already reached. For him, heat or cold, joy or sorrow, honor or dishonor, they are all the same. But how can you conquer the mind? You can only struggle against it. Mamaivaso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana mana shastendriyani prakritistani karshati. You are struggling with your mind and your five senses because you are an ansha, you are a fragment of the divine. The only way you can transcend the mind, conquer the mind, divinize the mind is by surrendering to God. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Geeta, Daiviyasa gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. He says very clearly that this prakriti, including your mind, is under my direction. It's my divine energy. And by surrendering unto me, you can transcend it. So, this is very important and this is critical. So, what does Krishna want you to do in this verse? Where Krishna is saying, fix your mind upon me, fix all your intelligence in me. The key word that matches 12.8 is none other than the twice repeated verse. Man manabhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mam evaishyasi yuktva matmanam matparayana. It's also repeated later. That man manabhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. So Krishna is telling you to fix your mind upon him. Be absorbed in him, constantly worship him, and you will come to him without any fail. So if you can't be naturally absorbed in him, then learn to fix your mind upon him. And then Krishna says that if you can't really fix your mind upon Krishna, then what should you do? Then he says, engage in what is called abhyasa yoga. Engage in learning to constantly fix your mind upon him. And here Krishna says in 12.9, Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai stiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjun, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow abhyasa yoga, the regulated principles that constantly make you aware of me. In this way, you will develop a desire to attain me. So there is an entire system which has been developed to help you to fix the mind on God. Krishna understands that it's very difficult to put your mind on God. He declares actually through Arjun, he says in the 6th chapter, Chanchalahi mana Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigram manye vayurivasa duskaram. My mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate. To try to control my mind is like trying to control the wind. What can I do, Krishna? What should I do? So then Krishna tells him, Yato yato nischalati mana chanchalam asthiram tatastato niyam yetad atmanya eva vasham nayet. So wherever and whatever your mind goes to, repeatedly, abhyasa, using repeated methods, bring the mind back to God. So by constantly and repeatedly bringing the mind back to God, your mind will be trained to remember Krishna and fix your mind upon him. So how does one do that? Of course, there are many methods. This quote is from the 6th chapter, where the method is meditation. But in the 4th chapter, he has also described that by the performance of Havan, one can fix the mind upon God. But the method that Krishna has prescribed as a supreme yajna is given in chapter 10, which we have covered. And there Krishna says very clearly, Yagna nam japo yagnosmi. Of all forms of yajna, of all forms of sacrifice, I am the chanting of the holy names. So Krishna's instruction is that always remember him, always think of him. And the yajna that helps you to do this is constantly remember him by chanting his name. But of course, he wants you to also offer everything to him. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Geeta, which this part we have covered, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo mad bhakta prayachati tad aham bhakti uparitam ashnami pratatmana. If you offer to me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, a little water, because you offered it to me with love and devotion, I accept it. But more important, by offering it to him, you remember him. Think how many times during the day you have something to eat or drink. And if every time you offer that to Krishna, that many times you will remember him during the day. So by chanting his name, by offering food and water and everything that you consume to him first. And in fact, Krishna goes further in the next verse and he says, he wants you to do everything for him. Yat karoshi yad ashnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusha madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever charities, whatever austerities you perform, everything, Krishna says, do it for me. This is all Abhyas Yoga. Shubha ashubha falairevam moksha se karma bandhane sannyasa yoga yuktena vimukta mame vishyasi. And if you're constantly doing these things that I am telling you, which is in the Bhagavad-Gita, very quickly he says, you will come to me. It is known as sannyasa yoga, which now Krishna is leading to. Having done 12.9, now we move on to 12.10. In 12.10, Krishna says, Abhyase api asamarthosi mad karma paramo bhava madartham api karmani kurvan siddham avapsyasi. If you can't do this abhyas yoga, then Krishna says, just try to work for me. What does he mean, work for me? Krishna explains, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhaya cha. Just fix your mind upon me and engage in your work. And if you simply engage in your work by remembering me, you will be working for me. In the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna describes that before the performance of any work, you must start with the prayer Om Tat Sat. That, hey Krishna, hey Krishna, I am offering this act unto you. So by constantly saying, let me offer this act unto you, constantly working and offering that work unto God, you will constantly remember Krishna and gradually move to Abhyas Yoga. This is very powerful because most of us, we work at least 8 hours a day. And if you are working and you're constantly saying Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, then this constant offering of your actions to God on your work will help you to remember Him. And then Krishna says, as the next alternative, if you can't even do that, then he says, Athaitad apya asaktosi kartum mad yogam ashritah sarva karma phalatyagam tata kuru yatatmavan. If you are unable to work in this consciousness that I am doing it for you, Krishna, Om Tat Sat, then try to act, giving up all the results of your work, and try to be self-situated. So Krishna would like you to work for him. And how does he want you to work for him? In text 12.10, he has pointed out that try to work for me. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matpara buddhi yoga mupashrita machchitta satatam bhava machchitta sarva dugani mat prasada tarishyasi atho chetam ahankaran nashroshyasi vinakshasi. So he wants you to constantly work for him. Depend upon him with your mind and intelligence. Be surrendered unto him. By his grace, cross over all obstacles in life. But the moment you think, I am doing it, everything is finished. But if you can't work in this manner, Krishna says, at least work as your duty without expecting anything in return. Krishna says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan ma karma phala hetur bhur mate sangostva karmani. Do your work without keeping your mind on the fruits of the work. Do your work without thinking of yourself as the doer of the work. You have a right to do your duty. You do not have a right to the fruits thereof. He wants you to be the real yogi and the real sannyasi, as described in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, first verse. Anashritah karma phalam karya karma karoti yah sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriya. One who works as he is obligated, without seeking the fruits of his labor. He is the true yogi, he is the true sannyasi, he is the true mystic, not one who lights no fire and does no work. So with this, Krishna comes to the conclusion of the ladder of devotion. Wherever you are in your life, wherever you are in your consciousness, you can pick up anywhere along this ladder. And if you can pick up anywhere along this ladder, you can move your way up, or you can move your way down. Indeed, if you are engaged in devotion to Krishna, then Krishna will certainly have mercy upon you and offer you his grace. And when you are offered his grace, then you will be delivered from this world. Remember, the key or the essence of all devotion is that it should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje ahai tuki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. The topmost religion is that religion which teaches you how to love God. And if you can learn to love God in a manner that truly satisfies the soul, your worship should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. Unmotivated, in Shikshashtakam of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he teaches us. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam va jagdisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhaktir ahituki tvai. I'm not asking you for wealth. I'm not asking you for beautiful women. I'm not asking you for being freed from the cycle of birth and death. Even if you bring me back here in this world again and again and again, I will only serve you. And in the conclusion of the Shikshashtakam, he says, Ashli Shiva Padratam Pinastumam Adarshanam Varmatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Vidatu Lampato Mat Prananathastu Saevana Para. Even if you treat me roughly in your embrace, you shall be me of my worshipful Lord. Even if you crush me, even if you kick me, even if you neglect me, even if you leave me broken-hearted by never appearing in front of me, even then you are my worshipful Lord, unconditional. This is that ideal of pure devotion. And if you are on this path of bhakti, then certainly you must understand that this is the path that will take you back to Him. The next time we will cover that aspect of the Bhagavad-Gita which is known as the Dharma Amritam. It is known as the Amritashtakam, with the 8 verses, and they are the Amrit of Dharma, because the last verse says Dharma Amritam. And it is the result of living a life of bhakti. And if you follow the instructions and try to behave in that manner, you will also get bhakti. So that's a dual benefit of this Amritashtakam we shall cover next time. So with this, I will conclude. If you have any queries, questions, comments, anything, please feel free to ask me now.
Thank you, Shantanu for today's lovely session. My first question is,
Why am we not able to see you?
uh, wait, let me just figure this out. My camera isn't working, I guess.
Okay, doesn't matter. You can ask.
My first question is, how can devotion help overcome ego and attachment?
Devotion means remembering God in a manner that you forget self. That's how devotion purifies you. You are not absorbed in thoughts of self, you are absorbed in thoughts of the Lord that you love. And the less you think of yourself, the less your ego is strengthened. And the more you think of God, the more your ego is weakened or attenuated. Eventually, it is diminished, it is transcended, and it is completely extinguished because you have no thoughts of self. From a neuroscience perspective, these thoughts of self, which enhance, increase, aggrandize the ego, are known as the default mode network. Because this ego is meant for us to defend ourselves in the world and survive. But now we are overusing it. So when we absorb ourselves in God, we don't think of self. And when we don't think of self, the ego becomes starved. And as through starvation of the ego, by remembering God, you get rid of that ego. I hope that's clear.
And the next question is, how can we practice bhakti even when faced with challenges, distractions, or loss in everyday life?
You have to accept that everything happens by the will of God. This is the first principle. Tena vina tranamapi na chalati. Not a blade of grass moves without God's consent. So having understood that, you try to look in challenging circumstances for a purpose and reason that Krishna has given you those challenging circumstances. And depending on Him, working for Him, being absorbed in Him, work your way out of those challenges. These challenges are meant for your purification, and they are a gift of God.
Thank you so much, Shantuji, for today's wonderful session. To all our viewers, do stay tuned with us, and we, as we discuss another chapter of the Bhagavad Gita on next Thursday at 8 a.m. Hare Krishna.
So Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna.